everybody, how y'all doing? I hope you guys are doing good. We are going to be covering Sense and Sensibility, the very first episode of Sense and Sensibility, in fact. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. This is not a book that gets enough love, in my opinion, so I really think you guys will enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, this Friday, we're going to have our very first Patreon exclusive. It's going to be the 1995 versus 2005 Pride and Prejudice movies. It'll be with Amanda Faye, who we did our original Pride and Prejudice movies with, or episodes with, not movies, because we did the books too. But you know what I mean. It's really fun. You guys are going to love it. It's on Patreon, so if you subscribe to the $10 tier, you get access to the show notes, the bloopers, these Patreon exclusives, which will be happening every month. I've already got some recorded, some planned out, so you guys are going to love it. It's going to be great, and I really can't wait to see what you guys think of it. But yeah, without further ado, sorry, I always forget this part, but if you haven't read Sense and Sensibility yet, and this is your very first time ever joining the podcast, welcome. Hi. How y'all doing? Please be sure to read it first because these are spoiler-inclusive episodes, and I would hate for someone to get spoilers when they don't want any. So if you haven't read it yet, just pause here, read it, enjoy it, love it, all that good stuff, and I will catch you all in the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Barely Bookish. Today we are reading Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. We have very fancy books and a very fancy story to talk about, and I am joined today by my wonderful cousin Allison.
Hi.
So we will get right into it. Volume 1, Chapter 1. This book...
Oh wait, I did have a line.
Yes. Okay,
I
go
have
ahead.
a note about just the very first two lines of the book because who would I be if I didn't have a Harry Potter reference that no one asked for?
I'm ready for it. I love it.
The first two lines of this book remind me of the beginning of Harry Potter.
Okay, hold on. Let's just read the lines so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about.
So the first line in Harry Potter, credit J.K. Rowling, and I'm not sure if this is verbatim, but it's something like, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. And this one, I don't know why, it just reminded me of that. They say, do you want to read the line?
Yeah,
the first 2 lines.
The family of Dashwood had long been settled in Sussex. Their estate was large, and their residence was at Norland Park in the center of their property, where for many generations they had lived in so respectable a manner as to engage the general good opinion of their surrounding acquaintance.
Is that not?
It does feel it. Now that you pointed it out, I got my Harry Potter bookmark to it, so I feel like this is meant to be. That's meant to be.
I don't have mine in here. I do have a very similar one.
Mine has also a ribbon, so every time I read it, I kind of feel like I'm a famous librarian, or I've got some mystique to me a little bit. So I open the ribbon and I'm like, I just
feel
you
do have a very fancy book. We both have very cute versions of this book.
I know. It's a Paper Mills Press. I got this one, and I bought them from Book Outlet, so they were really, really cheap. So I got this one, and I got Treasure Island by the same editor, Bound Company. What do you call that? Edition, I guess, is what I'm looking for. So I got Treasure Island, Alice in Wonderland.
And that's a strange book. I don't know if you've read it yet.
I haven't read it yet. I got to find a guest for it first.
Oh, do not put me on that one. That one really messes with your head, and I think I wouldn't be able to keep it all straight.
So my notes are just going to be chaotic.
It depends on which. There's 2 parts of it, so it's Through the Looking Glass and then Her Adventures in Wonderland or something.
Yeah, I bought both.
Gotcha. I think
I don't know which
the
one
I
first.
had was both. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bought them as 2 separate books because no one would tell me which one goes first, and I have no idea. So I just bought both of them because they were $2 on Book Outlet each, and I was like, all right, I'm sold.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the answer. I think I read it because mine was bound in the same book, so I think I just read it from cover to cover and whichever one came first. But I was really excited to read this book because I know the story, but I've read Pride and Prejudice, and I know this story really well. My husband's like obsessed with this movie, this one. Well,
Really?
and Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, he's a big Austen junkie. Um, I shouldn't say junkie because that's like the two that he really likes. We don't watch any of the other ones, but I was really excited to read this one.
Yeah, I can't wait till we can compare the movie, and once I finally figure out what's going on, because I have no idea what's happening.
Well, and you're gonna want to compare the two a lot.
Yeah,
And
I'm
you can't
trying not
totally do that.
to.
It's like comparing Parks and Rec to The Office because they're both like dry humor sitcoms.
Yeah.
And this is like one of those similarity things where I think it's like whatever one you watch first or read first is going to be your favorite, or whatever one, I think it's hard to compare them because they're different.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they have like similar undertones.
All right, so chapter 1. The old Mr. Dashwood owned an estate and invited his niece and nephew to live there with him along with their children. And then after 10 years of everyone living there, he just like dies.
Do you understand the family hierarchy that's happening? Like, do you know the family tree that's happening?
Yeah, I get it, but like my notes of how I'm having to write these people, I'm like, his nephew, who is also the father. And I'm just like trying to,
Well, they're also saying like Mr. Dashwood for every single person. So I literally drew out a family tree. So.
I'm going to have to make one just so that like when I post it on Instagram, I'm like, this is the family tree for anyone listening to this podcast or reading my notes. And I'm just going to like attach the two together. So if I can just like staple them.
Yeah, there you go.
Like
I need a visual aid. So I had to go through it. So it's like the guy that was there first, his name, I think it's Harry or something. He's there. He has no sons. So by law, it goes to his nephew, who's Henry.
Well, he was supposed to be able to give it to anybody, but he chose to give it to his great grandnephew through his nephew because he liked the 4-year-old. So he was like, oh, I'll give it to you instead of giving it to the niece and the daughters. Right.
But it's because typically it goes to a man because patriarchy.
Yeah. Sexism.
Sexism. So Henry is married to a woman, I don't think they ever say her name, and they have John. And they may have more kids, but John's the oldest and he's a boy. So I'm assuming that she's his late wife. I don't think it says specifically if she's died, but divorce is not a thing.
Dead. I think she's dead because she leaves money for him. And the only way you can really leave money is if someone dies.
Right. And it's 1811 when this book is written, so she probably died.
She probably died.
So
under mysterious circumstances.
Yes. So they have John, and then Henry remarries. I have yet to see what Mrs. Dashwood's name is.
No, I don't know if they ever do not say.
Okay. I thought I was going crazy because I'm one of those people that just like, if I'm reading too fast, I skip past it. But
I reread the first chapter like 4 times. I'm not going to lie to you. I was just like, wait, whoa. Yeah.
It's confusing. So they have 3 kids. Eleanor's the oldest, and then Marianne, and then Margaret. And then John Dashwood, he marries Fanny, and they have a son.
Yeah.
I think his name's actually Harry, so maybe I pulled Harry from there, or there's more than one Harry.
I don't know.
So that's what's happening. So it's going to John because Henry dies.
Yeah.
And John doesn't need the money or the house.
John's loaded.
John's loaded because his mom has already passed.
Yeah.
So that's why Henry is like, yo, please help my girls out because
he's like, oh yeah,
they can't get anything. Yeah. So they have nothing. And what they get left, I feel like you probably had this phenomenon in Pride and Prejudice, but they get £10,000.
A year.
Right. No, I think it's total.
No, when they die, she only gets like £500 a year.
No, because that's what they decide on. And then and then they don't help him at all.
Yeah, so they are already getting like £500 a year. And then he's like, oh, but if I give them another like 500, that's going to be 1,000 a year. They'll live very comfortably because they have some sort of income from from I don't know if it's from their father or if it's from their mother. I think their mother had a little bit of money, like Mrs. Dashwood. I think when her parents died, she got a little bit of money. But like they're living on scraps at this point. Like,
I gotta look because someone gets 10,000 pounds.
yeah, I'm looking to see if I wrote it
Yeah,
back up.
so he survived his uncle no longer, and 10,000 pounds, including the late legacies, was all that remained for his widow and
Mhm.
daughters.
Okay, so they got a lump sum of 10,000.
They get a lump sum of 10,000 pounds, which I did my best to convert. That is 1,047,539 US dollars in right now,
Yeah.
present
So
day.
that's like a good amount of money.
It's a good amount of money, but like if you think about it, their youngest, Margaret, is like 13 or 14. I think she's
Yeah.
13 is what I have written down. But Margaret's 13, so she's not getting married. I know they get married off young, but she's not getting married for a few years. And there's still servants and,
Yeah.
you
A
know,
house,
cooks and yeah, and a
house
house and all
payment.
those expenses. And it all adds up, and that's all you've got. So imagine just getting written a check and trying to stretch it for that long.
Yeah. Because, like, basically, Mrs. Dashwood has to stretch it indefinitely.
Right. And she's not very good at budgeting. So
No, like, she's literally said that she gets like 500 a year normally. And she's like, I've been having to try and save money off of that. Like, it's not going well.
yeah, I think they say something at one point that like budget in her vocabulary or something. I don't know
Yeah.
how exactly they say it, but
But I mean, like, I get that. Like, I can understand because my understanding is that she grew up well off. And then because she's a woman, she didn't get any of it. When her,
classic.
yeah. So, like, I can imagine if you were always raised that there was plenty of money to go around, how it's becomes very difficult to understand that, like, you have to cut some things out of your life, expenses
Right,
wise. So it makes sense.
right.
So then the nephew dies shortly thereafter and asks his son to please take care of his stepmom and the sisters now that he owns the entire estate. And unfortunately, John's wife, Fanny, is a selfish woman. And as soon as his funeral happens, she immediately moves into the house without giving any warning at all. She's just like, I literally think it's like the day of the funeral. She's like, got her suitcase and she's like, well, move out of the master suite because it is,
Fanny's the worst.
she is the absolute worst.
She's not, well, at least I haven't read the book up. I mean, I've read for this section obviously, but I haven't read past yet, and just from what I know from the movie, my girl is annoying.
Literally. Like, we don't really like anybody we meet in this book so far. Like, we like kind of Will, Wilbur, Willoughby,
Willoughby.
Willoughby, Wilbur.
Girl, did you read to the end of this section? We don't like Willoughby.
Well, like, I don't even know. Okay, so we kind of like him, but we also aren't sure if we like him because we don't know what happened.
Well, we'll get there when
We'll
he's
get
not
there.
here yet. He's not here yet.
I know, but I'm like, we don't like anybody. Like Jane Austen wrote this book when she was in a mood because everyone around the us in this world is salty and not a nice person.
I would love to know more about Jane Austen's actual life. I know there's like a movie, but I think it's very romanticized. It's called
Oh,
Becoming Jane, I believe.
yeah.
I want to say it's Anne Hathaway, but I don't quote me on that.
I
But
don't know.
she just writes like a woman that's been burned. Like
I know.
she's got sister issues. There's always someone that's like a little overzealous, and then there's always someone that's just a straight D bag.
Yeah.
So
My
it's interesting that she has characters that probably reflect similar people in her lives. It's kind of like how I thought it was only going to be one Harry Potter reference, but it's like how people say that Joe Rowling wrote her characters based off of people that bullied her growing up.
Joe Rowling's also a trash person though, so
Well, I'm just comparing writing. So
I know, but like I just feel like I don't know. JK like she's a lot. I can go on about JK for a while. I literally went on a rant about her the other day. for like an hour. So I feel like I don't need to repeat that, but also at the same time, I'm always ready.
So Fanny moves in. Fanny moves in, and she's already checking out the china. She's checking out the curtains. Like, she is scoping everything out, and she's mad because they're gonna take the stuff that's rightfully theirs.
Oh my gosh. No. So basically, when they moved into this house, they had china and they had all this furniture. And then, like, obviously, they're like, okay, our uncle doesn't want to live alone. So, like, we'll sell our house and move everything in here. And now Fanny's like, well, you're going to move into like a terrible dwelling. So, like, why don't you just like give us all your fine china? And it's like, Fanny, you
But they don't.
absolute
They don't.
dirtbag. No, she doesn't. Like, but like Fanny is such a dirtbag because she's literally like, you guys don't deserve to have this. I know you bought it with your own money, but like you don't deserve it, and I deserve more than you do. And I'm like, okay.
Fanny is the Caroline Bingley.
Oh yes, absolutely.
She is like master, except Fanny has more
Sway,
like
I feel like.
she has more power. Yeah. Exactly. Because there's a section where she's talking to John about how much money they should give them, and she's just talks him down on every single point to the point where he's like, "Oh, you're right. My dad didn't want me to help them at all."
It just
like, father must not have meant me to support them financially. He just wants me to be a friend.
Yeah, it's like, what? Like, I just okay. So you know in My Big Cat Greek Wedding where the mother goes, you know, you let the man do all the talking, but the woman controls the neck and moves him. I'm like,
The man's
Fanny?
the head, the woman's the neck. Yes.
Yeah.
Fanny's the neck for sure.
Absolutely. But she also somehow can just shut his mouth for him, and I just don't understand how.
The movie, so I feel like Pride and Prejudice, personally, I mean, when I talk about it, I talk about the Keira Knightley version because that's the one I've seen the most. I felt like they're different. There's another one that's much longer. It has Colin Firth in it.
I know I have to watch that one really bad.
It's good. It's just different. It's probably closer to the book, but I don't know which. But I felt like the Keira Knightley one isn't an exact, like a perfect match to the book, but I like parts of it better in the movie than the book, which I feel like is very rare. But for Sense and Sensibility, the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, this is actually just like the movie. The only thing, they add a couple things in the movie and they cut a couple things like any movie, but I feel like the characters are on point. Like Fanny is like got this really like nasally like, oh, they don't need that. Like she's just so obnoxious and totally talks him down, and he's just like, oh yes, you must be right. Like,
I can't wait for us to watch the movie because I hope we watched it at the same time because I'm gonna just text you the entire time. Like basically I feel like for Patreon I'm just gonna have like screenshots of our text and just like upload that.
So this movie, I told you that my husband loves Sense and Sensibility, and at the very beginning of quarantine, I had my own movies from my parents, and I had been in grad school, and so I didn't have that copy of that movie like my parents did. And Michael thought I had it, and he was so upset. So at the beginning of quarantine, we did like curbside pickup at Barnes & Noble because they're the only place that sold the DVD of this movie, other than like I think Amazon was ridiculously priced because it's just some random movie, and you can't get it on Blu-ray because apparently there's not a demand for it. But I say there is.
I second that. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure there will be. I mean, Jane Austen is just so iconic that I can't imagine that there isn't a demand for it. But I feel like there's more of a demand for Pride and Prejudice right now. And
because that movie is more modern too, and well, actually, it's more modern, but I would say I'd argue that Sense and Sensibility has a lot more high-paying actors. Do you know who is casted in this movie?
Listen,
Do you know anything about it?
No, I know not a single thing. I have no idea besides the title of the book when I opened it.
So are you one of those people that, I mean, I'm assuming that when you read books, you want to picture them yourself, but do you want to know who's casted as these people? Because I think it's actually very good casting.
I don't mind knowing. Like, I'll end up changing what they look like to my own personal preference, no matter how much I read it. So there's that.
Yeah, so there's actually, so Eleanor in the movie is Emma Thompson.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
And Marianne is Kate Winslet. Colonel Brandon is Alan Rickman.
Uh,
And then Sir John Middleton, he is I don't know the actor's name, I'm sorry, but he's the guy that plays Cornelius Fudge in Harry Potter. There's actually a lot of Harry Potter actors in it.
I just need a second to process, to be
Yeah,
honest.
so it's a lot, but I think the casting is very good, and when they describe the characters, they're very like Edward is Hugh Grant, and he's so awkward.
When did this movie
Perfect
come
one.
out? Because I feel like these actors are a little too old, but I'm imagining them right now. So like, did
They
this?
honestly look a little too old in the movie too, but
Okay,
it's let me look it up.
you're
I
telling me
think
Alan
it's
Rickman is supposed to be
90s.
like 35?
He does look younger in that than he does in Harry Potter, but he's
Okay.
still Alan Rickman. So, let me look it up.
Everyone wanting to cast Alan Rickman in his 20s when he's very much not in his 20s is my favorite thing in the world.
1995. I'm curious if Die Hard came out first because I think Die Hard was like his first role.
I still haven't seen Die Hard.
I haven't either, but yes, Die Hard was 1988.
So probably.
Yes, that's like his first big movie.
Everyone's obsessed with Alan Rickman. I mean,
Yeah, but he is like the perfect Colonel Brandon because he's just like very stoic and sensible, and
it hits right.
yeah, it's good.
I
But
keep
okay.
trying to like relate everybody to who I think they are in Pride and Prejudice, and I need to like stop because I'm trying to figure out who the Wickham is, and I'm like, is it Willoughby? I'm like, is Willoughby the Wickham? And I'm like, okay, no, I can't go down this road.
You can't go down the road, and I'm not going to spoil it. You'll know when you know.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'll start out the podcast on those chapters. I'll be like, what in the
Yeah,
it'll be very good.
you'll know.
So
I think we're in chapter 3.
No, we're still in chapter 1.
No, because we were talking about Fanny getting talked down or talking.
Yeah,
about
we're
John.
like we've lightly scooted. So let me.
Oh, continue then.
Yeah. So basically, everyone's moved into this house now. They're all living together, and everyone's super on edge and very uncomfy, and no one wants to be there. But all the girls are going to try and make it work because they don't really want to leave Northfolk. So Northfolk, is that right?
Norland. Now I don't know myself. It's Norland, I believe.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It's on the first page because
yeah,
we read it.
We could just check.
What an important detail to just keep forgetting. Yeah, Norland Park.
Norland. Okay. Yeah, so everyone wants to still live there, so they're trying to like be civil.
Mm-hmm.
So chapter 2, John wants them to consider it their home, but his wife is treating them as visitors. And it's like very noticeable that she's basically like, when are you guys gonna leave? Because like I'm here now.
John tries to be a good person all the time, but he's like, oh wait, I'm kind of not a good person. But he like thinks that he's doing the right thing all the time.
They literally said that if he was with a better woman, he would be a way better person because he has like the drive, but he can be talked out of it very quickly. So if he had
that's
someone,
exactly right.
Yeah, if he had someone to encourage him to be a good person, I think he'd be a very good person. So
right.
John initially wanted to give each of his sisters $3,000 a year, which is what we kind of touched about.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets talked down to, well, his wife's like, you're gonna rob our son of half of his fortune. So you're telling me this child is getting like $9,000 a year if he was having half of his fortune. So that ends up what? 18,000 a year? Like, I'm sorry. Why is 9,000 not enough for her?
Because she's so selfish. She thinks any penny stolen from her son is like in vain, even though they have another inheritance from John's mother. Yeah. And I believe that Fanny's rich too. I think Fanny came from money.
Yeah, she did.
So they have money all around. So she's just being very greedy, which is obvious.
Yeah. So she then talks him down to only 500. And then after they're like 500 is great, she then says not to pay them yearly because she thinks that they'll start like outliving their means, and then like if their bills are really high that year, she still has to pay them yearly. So like don't sign into an annuity, just give them gifts of like money sometimes and be very quote neighborly unquote. And then, yeah, she then decides like not to give them anything.
I mean, that's what she wanted all along.
Yeah.
She just keeps like changing the story and, oh, well, my family had to pay an annuity to their servants, and it was such a bother to have so much of our money every month go away, or every year, whatever their payments were, go away.
Yeah.
It was such a burden. And he's like, you're right, that would be a burden. He's just the most gullible dude in the whole world.
He literally is. It's so bad.
I
It
just
just
love that we go from him being like, oh, I will give them a generous gift every year, to I'll just hold their hand when they need it.
he's like, I'll get them a generous gift, to then he'll be like, I'll help them move. And then he's like, oh, you guys are moving a couple hours? Okay. Well, I'll just say bye now and never see you again. Thanks.
He's the guy you call when you need help moving, and he'd be like, sorry, I can't.
He literally is the guy that has a truck but says it's for decoration and he won't
Yeah.
move anything.
No, he thinks that he can move stuff with it, and then Fanny won't let him.
There you go. Fanny is actually the one driving the truck.
Let's be very fair.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I bought this truck to be a work vehicle. And Fanny's like, that's cute. No.
Fanny's crazy.
But
Fanny's
then,
just incredibly selfish.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't like her. I'm glad that we only had to deal with her for like 2 chapters.
She comes back.
Ugh, don't tell me that.
I don't know how, I mean, at least from what I know in the movie and the general plot, she comes back, but she's not a huge character overall. Like, I feel like she's on the level of Caroline Bingley, where she's just like some sort of antagonist that shows up periodically and is there to insult people.
Great.
Yeah.
So then, chapter 3. So the wife has a brother. No, I lied. I meant cousin. I wrote brother in my notes, but
I think he is her brother.
Mrs. Dashwood?
Oh,
It's her
I'm sorry.
cousin.
I thought you were talking about
Wait,
yeah,
no, I lied.
Fanny. It's
No,
Fanny's
I
brother.
lied. Yeah, so
It's
it's
Fanny's
Fanny's brother. It's Fanny's brother. I'm looking at my notes and I was like, oh, I wrote that wrong. But when I meant the wife, I meant Fanny.
You
And
just need to write Fanny because it gets
I know.
confusing.
But at this point, I didn't know her name yet when I wrote that, I think. I think I found out her name later. I don't know. So Fanny has a brother, and Eleanor seems to be growing attached to him. His name's Edward, and he seems to be rather nice, but very shy, and he is rich, but that doesn't really seem to matter, I guess. I mean, it matters, but like it's not like a prevalent thing.
He's just so vanilla and so shy.
He's so vanilla. And like I'm trying to figure out if he's gonna be like a Darcy, and I'm like, I can't look into it because like
You can't compare them.
yeah,
It's different.
it's like he's shy, but whereas like Darcy had things that you could tell that he cared about and he would talk about, it's like anytime Edward talks, I'm like, you're not saying anything. You know what I mean?
But he's very much like Eleanor. Like, Eleanor believes that she needs to be as reserved as possible and polite, and Marianne is the exact opposite, where she wears her heart on her sleeve, and so does Mrs. Dashwood, for that matter, and Margaret. They're all very outspoken.
True.
And Eleanor's the more reserved one.
I know.
And so she gravitates toward Edward because he's the same way, and the rest of them think that he's boring.
It's because he is boring.
He's just different. We gotta just love him for who he is.
I don't know.
Marianne says he has no taste like 500 times.
I know. Marianne's like, this man is vanilla as vanilla can get. She's like, he is the almond brand. Or, that's not what I meant to say.
I mean, basically, though.
Yeah, but like, he's just nothing. He's just a blank slate. And he's going to stay a blank slate. He's basically those fancy notebooks that writers have that they'll never write in, but because they're too pretty, but they just sit on a shelf. That's Edward. He's
right.
But I don't think he's actually pretty. I don't remember.
He's very average looking, they said.
Why does that not surprise me?
But he's like a nice guy. So he's a nice guy. He's just not overly ambitious. He just wants a comfortable life. Like, his parents want him, well, not his parents, just his mother, because his father's passed. But his mother and Fanny want him to be like a politician or something, and he has no interest in it. He just wants to get married and be happy
and relax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically, the mother thinks that Eleanor and Edward will probably get married. The mother seems to kind of like them, Mrs. Dashwood, I mean. But Marianne is not super wowed, as we mentioned, and she thinks that he will not appreciate Eleanor enough because he doesn't have enough taste.
There's this part in the movie, and they talk about it in the book. She makes him read poetry because that was what people did for entertainment, or like read plays. And I think she makes him read some. I don't know which one. I think it's Cowper or something. And I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but in the movie, there's a part where he's reading and she's like, "You're reading it wrong," and she reads it to him with so much more feeling, and he tries to do it, and he's Hugh Grant, so he's like the whole time, and just tries to do it with like more feeling, but all he's doing is raising his voice. It's just so awkward, but he's such an awkward guy, so I'm works.
Ready. I am so ready to see it. That's funny.
Yeah, you'll like the movie. I feel like it's kind of pretty close, although Margaret in the movie has a lot more parts.
Oh, really? Yeah, because like they mentioned Margaret briefly, and then they like seem to forget about her all the time.
Yeah, like, oh shoot, there's a third one.
Jane Austen's like, oh yeah, I should probably mention her. Like, she hasn't appeared in a while. Yeah, by the way, Margaret was in the corner. I was listening to this other podcast. It's Join the Party. Do you know that one?
No, I actually don't. No.
It's another Multitude podcast by the people that do spirits, and their first campaign, they had this prince with them. Because it's a Dungeons & Dragons podcast, and they had the prince with them, but they kept forgetting that he was in the scene. So they would be like doing whatever, and then they'd be like, "Oh, by the way," and he also, it's like, "Hey guys, I'm here."
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is Margaret.
Yeah, where they like
in the movie,
places.
She's a lot more. Yeah, that's Margaret in this book for sure. Literally. In the movie, she's like a spazzy little 12-year-old. She's 13, but whatever.
I actually forgot about Mary completely in Pride and Prejudice until I saw the movie.
Mary's like the emo
of the
group.
She's
got a lot of feelings.
Yeah, I literally wrote, I was like, who's the goth?
She is kind of goth. I respect it though. She just wants to play some moody music and chill.
Yeah, everyone was like wearing colors, and then she had like an all black dress on. I was like, who's that? I was like, I don't remember her from the book at all. I was like, why did they add a sibling? I'm like, oh yeah, there was another one. Mary existed this entire time, and I just completely forgot about her.
I like Mary though. I think she's underrated.
I could see that. I just don't remember her at all. So I just, yeah. I mean,
you're gonna get the books confused.
I know. I had to stop thinking about Pride and Prejudice. I just need to delete it from my mind for the next month.
It's so hard not to compare them. It's okay. But you'll see. We'll go back at the end and you can compare it a little bit more too, because there are similarities in some of the characters.
True. Yeah, I'm sure I'll have a lot to say like at the end. Okay, so chapter 4. Marianne mentions to Eleanor that she thinks that Edward has no taste when it comes to Eleanor's art. I'm not realizing how much, because you mentioned how much they talk about it, and like I kind of got it when I was reading it. I was like, wow, she talks about it a lot. And now I'm just going through my notes and I'm seeing how much I mention it in my notes as well. She just brings it up so much.
She thinks that he's nice. She doesn't think anything's wrong with him, but she doesn't want anything. Like, she is 100% not interested for herself.
Yeah.
And Marianne romanticizes everything, so everything is a big deal to her.
Yeah. I mean, she just cried for a chapter at the end there, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Marianne.
So Eleanor is like super quick to you saying Marianne just reminded me of Marianne Conditioner.
Oh my gosh. Please put this in your podcast. So Rachel had an American Girl doll growing up. And the full name of her American Girl doll was Marianne Conditioner. And you could not just call her Marianne. Rachel would correct you and say, it's Marianne Conditioner. You know what makes it better is that it was like the one that looks like me, you know, like the doll that you personalized to look like you. Yeah. So your little mini me was Marianne Conditioner.
I just think it's funny because my mom had a friend named Mary Ann, so I literally just took her first name because that's what I did with everything that I had. Is I saw a first name that I liked and I took it, but I knew those people in real life. So like I had a goldfish named Shelby because one of my mates' names was Shelby and I liked the name. Like in
You
first
just
grade.
steal everything.
There we go. That's my
Oh
brand
well.
apparently.
Yeah. So Marianne, not Conditioner, Marianne Dashwood.
I just as I was
Gosh.
like reading it, I'm just thinking about that.
Well, now that's all I'm gonna think about.
Oh my goodness.
She
Now
likes him though. Marianne likes Edward. She just thinks that she doesn't want anything to do with him.
yeah.
He's like, he's good enough for you, but I ain't interested.
I think she wants Eleanor to be more like her.
Right.
So
Well, because
she's
she's Eleanor's the odd duck in the
mhm,
family. Because she's the
yeah,
only one that's reasonable. She's the Rory in the beginning of Gilmore Girls
true.
that reigns in Lorelai, and Marianne and Mrs. Dashwood are Lorelai ordering thousands of dollars of takeout every week.
I just want to have their disposable income to order like 27 orders of Chinese rice.
Oh, and Gilmore Girls.
Yeah,
I've
that's all I
seen
want.
articles about how there's no way they could afford it, and it really bothers
No,
me.
because they spent so much money. Because they literally, there was one episode where they ordered both pizza to be delivered to their house and also Chinese also to be delivered to their house.
Sounds like a great night, honestly.
Honestly, I would love it.
Oh, and so they're talking about Fanny and Mrs. Dashwood. I just want to call her Mama Dashwood because
Okay,
you say
sounds good.
Mrs. I feel like she is the only Mrs., so it shouldn't be hard, but Fanny is the other Mrs. So
Yeah.
Fanny and Mama Dashwood are talking,
Mm-hmm.
and Mama Dashwood is like, "Ooh, Eleanor and Edward," and Fanny's like, "We have better expectations for him."
I know. She did not pull any like shots. She was like, papa. Okay, yeah, he's gonna marry someone better than your daughter.
Oh, she's full send on rudeness. She does not care.
I know. She did not pull her punches, and it was not a good look. So
Yeah,
at that
and
point, Mama Dashwood, super mad, is like, okay, we're leaving. Bye. Say goodbye,
yeah, she
everyone.
gets pissed.
And like, I don't blame her. This woman just insulted her children. So I think she has full right to be like, okay, we're now going to leave. Bye.
Well, she never likes Fanny in the first place. She's always uncomfortable around her, and now she's like, "Oh, you're a jerk."
Yeah. So, at with wonderful book timing, a
I
relative
was
of
thinking
the
that too.
a relative of the family offers up a small cottage, um, to Mama Dashwood because he heard that she's looking for a place to live. So he is like, "Hey, I have this small cottage," and like I know that like it was a big thing to have really nice houses, but as someone who thinks small cottage and thinks 2 bedroom, when we get there and they're like, "Oh, 4 bedrooms," I'm like, "Oh, must must be nice." That's 2 parlor rooms and 4 bedrooms. Okay, yeah, small cottage. Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about the culture at this point in time, but it always kind of cracks me up that John Middleton is a distant relative to them, so he's not inhabiting this cottage. So to him, he's like, I'd rather someone upkeep it and stay there.
Yeah,
But they go to so the cottage is Barton Cottage, and they go to Barton Park, where John Middleton lives all the time. And I
yeah.
always get the impression that it is very close. I
It's
just don't
half a
understand why you
mile.
need it. I don't understand why you need a cottage half a mile from your house.
I
But I don't
was
know how this stuff goes on in 1811. So
yeah. So like my thought was that like basically they always want people over. So I'm assuming they built that cottage as like somewhere for maybe their kids to live one day or something like that where like you don't always want people to live in your house but you want them to be close.
like a guest house.
Yeah. I'm guessing it was like supposed to be like that, but their kids are still pretty young. So they're like, okay, we should probably like do something with this right now.
I would love for
Or
one of your listeners to be an expert on housing in the 1800s in England, and just to tell us how wrong we are right
I
now.
know. And then it's like me making all these generalized assumptions. They're like, actually, it was very commonplace for. And I'm like,
I'm sure
oh,
it's like a normal thing, but when I
yeah.
think about it, I just find it really funny. They can just throw a rock to Barton
My
Park.
question is like, maybe it was one of those things where they bought the property and they just combined two properties. So it's like they were both already built and they just bought both to like make money off of it or
Yeah,
something.
possibly.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know. I would love for one of your listeners to tell us we're wrong
I would also
and tell
love
me the
that.
answer.
So just like
I
tweet.
could also research it.
We could. Or we could ask someone else.
Barely bookish listeners.
Yeah, let me know. Tweet
This is
me.
an opportunity.
Spam my DMs,
Please.
please. Thank you.
So
It is
they accept
appreciated.
because they cannot
Yeah,
afford to pass it up. They're like, here's a free house with 4 bedrooms and what, 2 garrets, they said?
yeah. So like her mother asks, Mama Dashwood asks all her daughters if they care, and like Eleanor's like, well, I'm not going to tell you no because we can actually afford this. And they had already been looking in town to see if they could find anything, and they couldn't find anything at all that they could afford. So Eleanor's like, fine, let's go, even though she's like kind of flirting with Edward, but like not really, and she doesn't know where she stands. So she's like, fine, let's go. So they
Right.
all, chapter 5, they all immediately announce. Mama Dashwood immediately announces to John and Fanny that they found a place, and John is like, "What?" And he's
We
kind of
leaving, Johnny.
yeah, and he's like shook that it's so far away, and I'm like, "Why are you shook? It's not like you guys were like bonded or
But it wasn't the plan. They were trying to stay as close to Norland as possible. And
yeah,
then after Fanny opened her little mouth,
yeah,
they wanted to get the F out of there. So,
yeah." So then he realizes that he can't even do anything nice to like help them move. And then Fanny's like, well, you were nice enough by letting them stay there for 6 months.
dude, I find it really funny. I don't like Fanny, but I
Yeah.
love the way that Fanny just goes in for the manipulation and he's just like hook, line, and sinker like every time.
Literally, he has no mind or will of his own because he's just like, oh, if Fanny says it is true, then it is true.
I feel bad for him.
I kind of feel bad for him too, but like he seems to be happy even though he's incredibly manipulated. So
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know.
maybe he's fine. He has a
I'm
selfish
assuming he's
wife, but
okay.
it's fine.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, he
He
doesn't seem
he
to be
loves
sad.
her. Someone's gotta love the selfish person. I'm just kidding.
He loves her almost as much as she loves herself.
Well, and then so they're packing up, and then they end
Mhm.
up getting their stuff shipped, which takes
Yeah.
forever. And Fanny's, bitter
Yeah,
about it.
Fanny's mad. And
But it was never hers. I mean, I
yeah,
guess it could be kind of because she inherits the estate basically, but
but it's like it wasn't the estates, it was her, it was the Dashwoods. So I don't know, she's
right.
all salty. And then John also somehow convinced Mama Dashwood and all the daughters that he has no money left with all the expenses of keeping Norfolk, Norland, Norland,
Norland.
Norland. By keeping Norland alive, he's like, I can't afford to give you any money. And Mom Dash was like, oh, that's okay. You've done enough.
He's such a goon.
He's so
He
bad.
doesn't know what he can afford. I'm sure Fanny is handling it.
Yeah, probably. And she's like tucking away millions of dollars. And it's like, hey, don't worry about it.
Well, and then Marianne is super dramatic about leaving. Like, oh, these walls, that tree, that rug.
I
Oh,
didn't
I
even.
can remember putting my feet on, like everything. She's just, she has like
Write it
major
down.
graduation goggles as she leaves,
I
like
know. I didn't even
romanticizing the
write
whole
that scene
place.
down because I was just like laughing as I read it. She was like, oh, poor me, to never see or walk these roads again.
But she's so dramatic. Like, that's her
So
MO.
dramatic. Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, so
I
chapter
agree.
6, everyone is super sad to be leaving the house because they spent like the last 12 years in it. And I really don't think that Margaret knows any other place because they basically lived there her whole life.
Oh, sad. Good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I just like did the math and I was like, ooh, ouch. Um, so the new cottage is really nice and pretty, and it's been well taken care of. It's in really good shape. Um, and Mrs. Dashwood hopes to add on to the house in the spring if they still have plenty of money. And then this is the point where I realized they're actually renting this house from the
Yeah, because John
Middletons.
Middleton is the landlord.
Yeah. So I'm like,
He's like
how
a
can you?
distant relative.
Yeah, but I'm like, how can you add on to a house you don't own?
All I could think of is when they're on House Hunters or something and
Mm.
someone walks in and they're blow out this wall. I want an open concept. Like that's the first thing she does. We need to extend the house, do an addition.
I know,
I
but
don't
I'm
have the
like,
money to do it, and she knows she doesn't. So
yeah. She's like, maybe in the spring when I can afford to. But I'm like, you don't own the house. How are you going to be like, hey, can I add 6 bedrooms onto the back end of this small cottage that you would like let me rent? Like, no landlord would be like, yeah, totally. If you feel like you want to do that, go ahead and just throw another 4 bedrooms on. I don't care. Like,
see, I
what?
don't think he would care though in this situation. He is so nice. I
Probably
have in my
not.
notes. He is hella nice.
Yeah, probably not, but it's just weird to me. It's like a weird concept because I imagine like rental properties as like you cannot do anything to them besides like put some paint on the walls, and even then you have to get it approved, you know?
I think that they consider it like the Middletons consider them as long-term guests.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like they assume they're going to be there for probably the rest of Mama Dashwood's life.
Yeah, until all the girls are married at least.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
uh
Oh, and then so they meet John and
yeah.
Lady Middleton, and there's this part where um they say something, and it's satirical, but they say something about how Lady Middleton brings their son because she wants attention and
Yeah,
thinks that like kids are the center of all
the world.
conversation, and then she's disappointed that no one comments on no one comments on like how cute he is or which parent he looks like more, and she's so pissed about it. I don't know why I found that funny, but Lady Middleton, as far as I remember, is not in the movie, and I just find her a pleasant addition in the book.
Yeah. She just like, well, basically most kids are like rowdy and like draw a lot of attention. And literally this little boy doesn't do anything. He's pretty shy and he just kind of sits there. So it's like no one has anything to comment on because he's not doing a single thing. And like she's like, "Oh, interesting. Okay."
But Lady Middleton is one of those people that totally prides herself on being a mother. Like that is her favorite
Yeah.
part about herself and her life. I mean,
Hmm.
I think her and John love each other, but I think her children is what she values most in the world, which I'm sure
Yeah.
many moms feel that way, but that's like how she sees her self-worth.
Hmm. Yeah. And I just think like the fact that all the girls were like, okay, there's a child here, but instead of like doting on him, I just think it's funny too.
I just love that there's a note of like how mad she is that no one's asked which one they look more like, or like which the kid looks more like the dad or the mom.
I just want to know how many people like that Jane Austen experienced in her life.
I know that's what I'm saying. I would love to know more about her personal life because I just feel like this woman has stories,
I know,
had
right?
stories.
Use
I
a
would love
Ouija
to know.
board.
I'm sure there's yeah, I'll call on Jane Austen. Um I'm sure there's I'm sure it's a very interesting story.
If anybody out there is a Jane Austen expert and wants to be on the podcast, my DMs are open. Please let me know because I have a lot of questions and I'm not very good with Google. So,
Yeah, and I'll just tune into that. I'd
yeah,
love
you'll
to
just
know.
be a silent person on the.
I want the True Hollywood story.
Yeah,
That's
big
what I
mood.
want.
So, this episode ran a little longer than expected, so we are going to stop it right there. I hope you guys are sending me DMs, all that great stuff at Instagram at Barely Bookish. Please follow me and send me DMs and tell me all the stuff I got wrong in Sense and Sensibility. It'll be great. It'll be a fun time. If you aren't doing it already, just comment on my post. Tell me how I don't understand Sense and Sensibility or Jane Austen. I love it. It's great. And because Allison's not here for this outro, if you want to check her out or follow her or any of that great stuff, she's at @_Allison Eason_ on Instagram, and I will have that link in the show notes so that you don't have to, try and figure out how Eason's spelled. It's spelled Eason, and yeah, so whatever. It's going to be in the show notes, but in case you don't want, I don't know, you can go to my profile and search and she will show up. Anyways, tangent aside, if you want to listen to the Patreon exclusive episodes, they are now starting this Friday. They are going to be once a month, so please subscribe over on patreon.com. It's $10 a month. There's a lot of great content there already, so you will have plenty to enjoy, and I think you guys will love it. But yeah, that's all I've really got for you guys. I don't know. It's a short one, a short little outro here. Our logo was designed by my little sister Sarah. Oh, we have a merch store. OMG, OMG. Did I really just say that out loud? Whatever. I can't believe I almost forgot to tell you guys. We have a merch store now. You can buy things with my cartoon face on it. Or you can buy Poor Cthulhu merch. And it's lovely. Let me tell you, it's over on Threadless. I got some merch for myself, so now I walk around with my own face on a shirt sometimes, which is interesting. But I also wear a mask, so no one would know that my face is... It's fine. It's lovely. Go to barelybookish.com/connect, and you can see the link for merch, or go to barelybookish.com/merch, and it'll redirect you right over to the Threadless website so that you can see all that lovely, lovely merch. It was designed by Nova, who was on our Fahrenheit 451, the Cthulhu shirts were, and the logo was obviously designed by my younger sister Sarah, so that's where all that's at. And now I'm going to cut the intro. I will see you guys next week. We will continue with more Sense and Sensibility, and I hope you guys are loving it as much as I am. Catch you guys later. Bye.